The track is the thing that interests me most. When I'm wanting to find tracks, one of the best ways to do that is look at topographical features in the area. Where would this buck have to walk is one thing. Where is he likely to walk? So you got to look food, water, bedding, and transitions between there. Then you look at vegetation in the area.
A little more into the background of kind of how you develop your woodsmanship. Like that's great, like your upbringing and everything. When did you start getting really serious about whitetail hunting specifically?
I was a trapper. I learned to trap very early. And that was the start of the woodsmanship. All of that put together, but especially, and I still attribute that, the best hunters I know of are trappers. Because Mike Yancey, I don't know if you guys know who Mike is, we have to know where that animal's going to put his foot, or at least why he wants to put his foot somewhere versus somewhere else. You have to learn either to manipulate the environment or read his environment, one of the two. So learning with that. So when I started whitetail hunting, I had that ability to read sign, to read tracks, I knew how, from hunting groundhogs and stuff, the wind, that even groundhogs will smell you and, that's it. And so, and like from trapping, I learned the part about ground scent, residual scent. You can't leave it in there. You can't handle stuff. You can't pollute the area if you want to catch something. And being able to read, hey, is this a possum den, a fox den, a skunk den, just different things by just looking at a track and learning that. So when I started whitetail hunting, it was just a lot of that was second nature to me to a degree. And it's like with anything, whether today, if I go to a different area or I switch to a different buck or even a different farm, I can have this base knowledge and back. Okay, all this base. But if I go in with these preconceived concepts that this animal does this, this, and this is what I've seen them do, and I take that and say, okay, I'm over here after this other animal on a different land or a different state, and they're going to do this, this, and this, and this, I'm going to be eating tag soup. I can't do that. I have to go in with this base knowledge and just open my mind up. And what I find the easiest thing to do is just stop thinking about it. Look at it and say, oh, big buck. And why is he traveling this direction? Or this set of tracks, I've got a set going this way and a set coming back this way. And where I may walk over and I see a set of tracks going this way, but now down here he's going this way. Why is that? I've got to be able to ask myself why and stop and look at everything around me to try to figure out, why is he doing this? Whether it's visual cover he's trying to maintain, because you can tell a lot by tracks and stuff. Is this animal more his nose, or is he more using his vision when he's traveling? Because they're different bucks, different ways. Different bucks use, or different animals. Let me not say bucks. They use different attributes. This buck's strong suit may be his eyes. This buck may use his nose more. And so the buck that uses his eyes are going to bed different than the buck that uses his nose the most. And then when you get the ones that use both of them and then his hearing too, that's ones you really got trouble with. And usually that comes with an older class buck. So
that is interesting.
Yeah.
So how would you determine that based on a track?
Well, it's not just a track. It's just the track is like, The track is the thing. The track is the thing that interests me most. Most people that today rely on their trail cams. What's the trail cam tell you? You know, there's a buck in the area. And so, but the problem, people will look and say, oh, we got this buck in the area. And then all at once they don't get photos of him. Like, man, he's moved out of the area. He's moved out of the area. He's moved out of the area. And it's like, no, he's figured you out. What the track tells me is what this animal's doing naturally. And I walk in and find a big track, and the buck, I just showed you my state record buck. When I walked in and I saw that 3.25 inch, 3.5 inch track that was, this wide and just, big, gnarly, I looked at that and there's like, here's a dream. He's here. He's here. So I need to find more about this animal, where I can find, And so whether I was in and sitting up on a ridge glassing an area for, time, or walking, where I could find on national forest and thick brush and stuff, finding buck sign, I had to do that. And I go in and I look for old rubs. And, when I'm wanting to find tracks, one of the best ways to do that is look at topographical features in the area. Where would this buck have to walk is one thing. Where is he likely to walk? So you got to look food, water, bedding, and transitions between there. Then you look at vegetation in the area. In the fall, where's your oaks at? In the spring, where's your browse at? Where's your clear cuts, for browse in the spring. So in fall, I may not go look. If I go in to look along the edge of a clear cut, I may be looking more for rubs and scrapes and the tracks associated with them. But spring, I'm in there looking where they're feeding, if that makes sense. Green logging roads, where it's greened up a little bit, where there's browse at in that area. So you start looking and finding creek crossings, and like with that buck, what I found, it's very limited places you can find tracks, in the big woods like that. But what I did find was a place where I could find big rubs along, certain areas. Area I thought would be good for bedding. But between that, I found a creek crossing that tracks back and forth. So I walk in and I look and I see, oh, there's a big fresh track, man. He was just through. Well, I get looking out and then I see a big indention that's bled out and mudded out. It's been rained on for 2-3 weeks, but there's just this big impression, low spot there in the mud, and it's a washed out track. But it's a washed out track from a 250-pound animal pushing down. So that tells me this deer was using that. When was the last rain? It was two weeks ago. So, and it's not rained since then. So this is probably from 3 weeks ago that he was there. So he's still coming here, and here's a fresh track. So right there, how many times have you walked through a cornfield or something, and you just see just a low spot, and a deer walked through here? Well, is that spot washed out that big, or is that spot washed out that big? Big difference. Is the stride between those washed out spots, are they that far apart, or are they this far apart? Well, what does that tell you? Well, this one, something was running him because he had a wider pace. He was running for a reason across there. Okay? When you find him the closer spacing like that, this is where he's normally walking. Does it meander? Does it straight line? Straight line. A lot of times he'll be the water because he's getting the heck out of Dodge or crossing for a reason, getting across there. If he's meandering, he's feeding or bird dogging, looking for scent. And that's just those bled out slide indentions. So you can start to see, okay, I've got a feeding area here, or I've got a crossing area. If it's running linear, and these are the bled out ones. Nobody ever looks for these. Nobody ever looks for them. So they look for the fresh tracks. Fresh tracks tell me what he just did. I want to know what he's doing as a consistent pattern when I'm initially going in looking early season and stuff, or late season. So you start finding this stuff, and then you can start to put stuff together. He's feeding here. Well, when would he be feeding here more? Or is he just crossing out of this thicket point to point? You know, and that's the same in the woods, the same way. You know, in the woods, you can see where deer have walked, and you can move leaves back and tell if it's a sharp break or if it's, you know, but it's being able to look. Well, after you do that enough, you walk through and just look at an area and like, okay, you know, and then after a while, it'll get to where you go through and like, okay, he's feeding here. People say, well, how you know? And it's like, I just know. You know, me and Nathan talk about this a lot. Sometimes you walk into an area, and as soon as you see it, you're like, yep, this is the spot. And what I've tried to do in the last few years is go back and like, why am I thinking this is a spot? Really look at it and figure out, you know, what it is. Like there's a spot right over here. I can show you that 160-inch buck. I mean, he's a stud. I mean, for Ohio, he's a big buck. For Tennessee, he's a mega buck. And this buck range is about 3 miles here. Had a buddy miss him last year. And about a mile and a half from here. But I can take you to a spot there, and I walk through an area like, right here's where I can kill him. And I started looking, and when I looked at it and I say, this is where I can kill him, it's like, now how do I know this? I got looking, and the thing that hit me where he's crossing logs, he's crossing both sides. You can see hoof drags where he's going across on each side versus just one. He's back and forth. So I stopped and I looked at that and I said, no, why is he right here? And then it hit me. He's got dual thermals at both. Everything ends up right here in this one spot. This way, plus the prevailing winds. Either way, he's going in a bed, out of bed, and it goes into a spot. And dudes, it's like one of these stupidest spots. You walk in, and it's like somebody's like taking, if they put 10-foot fences up, and it all came down, you're like, I'm put a tree stand right there, and I can kill them because everything, that one spot, I mean, it's just, you look at, but the problem is, I can't hunt it. It's, you know, we don't have permission to hunt it. But if we did,